How do you play the staring contest? Is it first to blink or first to look away?
Either.
I have naturally wet eyeballs.
No, you just blinked.
Oh, I thought we were done.
Welcome to the Video Reformation Podcast. I'm Ben Oliver.
I'm Justin Plant.
We're the co-founders of Storyboard Media and your guides to practicing effective video for business. We're like the Jim Malone to your Elliot Ness and the rest of the Untouchables from The Untouchables. It's a movie.
I haven't seen it.
Scraping the bottom of the
old?
barrel here. I'm going to say 91.
Oh, okay.
92, maybe?
Oh, it's called The Untouchables. Yeah.
Yes, Kevin Costner is Elliot Ness. Robert De Niro, I believe, is Al Capone. Sean Connery plays Jim Malone.
Who directed?
Yeah,
like a Scorsese
it's like
or
Brian De Palma or something like that.
That's about the right era, yeah.
Today we're going to be giving detailed instructions on how to fail in
How
video.
to fail. Yep. You want to fuck up your next project. Listen closely.
Just do everything we're about to lay out. Before we lay those things out, though, I understand we have a new, totally legitimate sponsor this week.
Yep. This week's sponsor is Cribble.
Okay. Great. Well, I look forward to hearing the spot from Cribble later in the episode. Don't have a marker for it here, so we'll just have to remember after maybe 3 bullet points. Or we'll fix it in post. Tease.
Let's skip ahead.
I suppose it's worth asking the dumb question here. Are we really encouraging our audience to fail at video?
Not at all. This is mostly us helping you learn from our mistakes. Things that we have done. I'm sure we've done every single one of these. I haven't read the entire list, but I imagine we have along the way.
Or we've been confronted with someone who's trying to.
Sure. Yeah.
Like maybe a client who.
Yeah. You want to start big picture. It looks like you've got an overall thing title here.
I think there's some things that I didn't really see as necessarily fitting into one of the 7 phases. And so, since we're saving strategy to the end, just because we typically bore people with that in most of our other episodes, I figured we could
stick around for...
Yeah, so if you want to hear about the strategic mistakes you could make sure to stick around. That's how we get them to listen to the sponsor spot.
Yeah.
With the juicy stuff at the end. Overall, because as we were coming up with this pretty specific list, kind of toward the end of putting the list together, it occurred to me that we had not put on here yet set out to create a viral video.
What's wrong with that?
I don't know. There's something wrong with the subject and the object there, I feel like. So
we want to make a viral video.
Video is something that happens to a video, not something like it's not something you create. It's something that it's not a thing that is made. It is something that happens to something that has been made. Virality is in the viewing and the sharing and the unexpected explosiveness of it to a broad audience, not. And there aren't any there's no equation you could come up with that equals viral video.
The only well-produced video that went viral that I can recall is the Dollar Shave Club. And that introduced a whole new era of commercial filmmaking.
Yes.
That became a theme that people are still following today.
Yeah.
There's some absurdity. There's good key messaging in there.
There are certainly some common elements to a lot of viral videos, but it doesn't mean... Now, I imagine when somebody comes to us, and this does happen less and less now, when somebody comes to us and says, we're really looking to make a viral video, I'm willing to admit that probably half of that is somebody just misusing the term, and what they mean to say is... We'd like to create a video that has the qualities that a lot of the viral videos have.
Or is very shareable, yeah.
So, shareability, concise messaging,
humor,
something pattern interrupting, be it humor, tone, a QR code bouncing around a screen for 30 seconds.
You can't, a lot of viral videos there's something very authentic and real about it. It's usually somebody filming from their phone and seeing something happen that nobody expected, and it's hard to manufacture authenticity. I think those two words are at odds with each other.
And even the Dollar Shave Club video, it had just a certain look at us, we're a small company, we don't give a fuck. We're going to be inane and absurd and silly, and it worked.
Yeah.
And it's been a while, but there's a podcast episode where the founder is talking about the making of that. And they put a lot of money behind promoting that. They got a great deal from a friend to shoot it.
It's for like the budget was like $5,000 or something total, even.
Yeah. I was going to say like $1,500, but I think it was basically like it was a friend who said, yes, this is worth doing. Just cover the people that I got to bring in or something like that. But they put a lot of money in promoting it. So it got in front of, it deliberately got in front of a lot of eyeballs so that it could give it that spark of virality. But yeah, it's impossible to set out to create a viral video. So if you're thinking, oh, we need a video that goes viral, before asking anybody to make that for you, just think about what are the qualities that you think that means, and you're probably going to get a much better response from any producer, just because there's danger in identifying yourself as someone whose goal is virality. So if the goal is as simple as being something that's got good messaging, is offbeat, has a hook, those elements, that's totally different. How many direct messages is enough for...
So, the next point, having too many DMs, decision makers, having too many cooks in the kitchen, another way to put it. And this is not just during the revisions process, there's like in post-production. This is something that happens every step along the way where there's just too many opinions. You need to have one person calling the shots.
Yeah, every ship needs a captain. But is this where we cut away to the Too Many Cooks video for like the 12 minutes that it is? Speaking of viral videos, you don't remember Too Many Cooks?
No.
It even had like a Too Many Cooks. It was like a Full House themed kind of thing.
Oh, was that something on like Adult Swim maybe?
Yeah, it was one of those kind of things. Well, that was 12 minutes of Too Many Cooks. Whether or not we did it, I don't know. Every ship needs a captain, and that's not just like every shoot needs a director. Every client needs one person to be able to make the final say, because especially in a business setting, every individual has different responsibilities and goals and perspectives that the more people are trying to get what helps them, the more watered down everything becomes. Right. And there's the whole, idiomatic phrase about a camel being a horse designed by a committee. When too many people are involved, it just becomes inefficient and mangled. The output, the product becomes something that's hard to recognize. And I think there's something about the creative process too, and making things, that the more you're in it, the harder it is to see the forest for the trees. And so you may be making terrible mistakes as part of a committee, but like every decision seems justified in the moment.
Right.
And that's what's so dangerous and tricky about it, is because somebody can make an argument for something that makes sense. And so as a group, you decide to do that.
You compromise all over the place.
And there's a couple things that happen. You can compromise in places, and so it gets watered down to a lowest common denominator, or you end up actually elevating two or three things that are competing with each other. So somebody may say, it's not always about watering it down. That's oftentimes what happens. But you also just get these conflicting messaging points or decisions being made because, right, and I don't think we're saying don't involve multiple perspectives. We're saying that one person has to have the ability to say whether we're doing this or not and understand how it affects the rest of the piece.
From a client side, who should that be?
I think it absolutely totally varies with client.
Yeah.
some when I think about our clients, some of them are set up to have like their marketing department project manager as kind of our single point of contact, and what they do is they actually take all of the combined feedback, for example, put it up against each other and kind of go back to the team and say, I've got some conflicting notes here from person A and person B. Where do we want to find this consensus? So they may not have the decision power themselves, but they know that their role is to keep an eye out for those things that are either compromising or conflicting. Sometimes it's
like a creative director.
Yep, a creative director or a director of content or somebody who understands, right? Because video doesn't live in a vacuum. So somebody who understands the other content that your company is making, how everything fits.
There's too many variables
it's just
across the board to say.
I'd love to answer it, but I think every organization has a team where hopefully they understand who.
I think ultimately it's who's accountable for this, and they need to make the decisions.
Yeah, and they need to be involved at the right points too. A fantastic mistake to make if you want to fail at video is to wait to involve that person when you're on like final version for approval. So you want whoever's going to provide feedback to be involved as early as possible, even if they're just kind of consulted or informed, so that they know they've got a sense of the journey that we took to get here, what it is we're trying to accomplish, what decisions, compromises, et cetera, have been made along the way. Because if they come in cold at the end of the process, they will have none of the context and their own motivations for what they think something should be, and it will just gum up the works to then throw it to, here's a typical scenario, throw it to the CEO for final approval.
Someone who doesn't even know this project is happening. Like, I don't like the color on that frame right there.
Yeah.
I've seen that a number of times.
That's, and again, I get the instinct, but I
think from an agency side, especially with a new client, oversharing is the right thing. Here's the creative treatment. Here's the intended call to action. Here are the actors we're hiring. Here's the script. Here's the whatever, and share that so that at least at the very end you can say, this has all been in your possession, and we kept getting thumbs ups.
This is about to get very expensive.
As an agency, I've really enjoyed working with clients long enough where we can absorb a lot of that decision-making power, and it helps them because they don't have to dedicate a lot of time to it. And it helps us because we can just push through and
that takes trust.
Yeah,
you can't just jump into a first project with someone and expect them to do it exactly the way an internal team would. Yeah,
it's hard to know in the moment if this is happening, but bringing on the wrong team member or freelancer to assist in the project, it's really hard to know in the moment. It is.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a gut feeling, but you're like, maybe you're in a corner or you're cornered and you don't know, you've got to bring in an editor and you couldn't find the person to do it. And then this person doesn't work out. Or
I could see this tying to the, who's the person on the client side to be responsible. Plenty of situations we've been in where someone has just recently been elevated to some additional responsibility, and a video project may be the first thing that is kind of outside of their traditional experience. So it could be that person's their lead graphic designer, and maybe part of grooming them to eventually become creative director or something is manage this. Now, I would put an asterisk on anything that's like a resource management, personnel, career advancement kind of thing. If you're trying to give someone additional responsibility to see how they do, you have to do that as a manager, as a boss. But, does this person possess decision-making and leadership skills that you think would help them succeed in this? Or are you just trying to give them additional work because it feels like it's in the, just a part of their career advancement path or whatever? But I really think about the qualities of someone who needs to be able to make the tough decisions and build consensus and have a backbone, stand up for, the brand, whatever it is, but, also let people do their jobs. It's a balance.
I wrote this one down or suggested it mainly because I was thinking we were a day before the shoot, and it was our first call with who was going to be our editor. Mm-hmm. Our creative director was there, our producer was there, and I was there because our producer was leaving shortly. I just did not get a good feeling about this editor. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, I've been there before. I've gone against that decision. I've decided against that feeling, and it turned out to be the wrong decision. Well, at this point, I realized, okay, I'm trying to learn from that mistake. I don't feel like this person's right for this project. We scrambled. We found somebody who worked out really, really well. There's a new person to add to our roster of freelancers. And so I think if you've got that gut feeling about a certain team member, it's probably just not the right time to bring them into that project.
Yeah, bringing somebody on for the first time is a very risky thing, and your gut is a good indicator of risk. Mm-hmm. And if your gut is saying, I don't know that I can trust this person, unless it's like an internal project, try to find someone else. Even if it's someone that you haven't worked with before where you don't have that gut feel. Mm-hmm. But I would encourage everyone who listens to just trust your gut in terms of who you're bringing into projects. Don't overthink it. If you've got that red flag feeling going off in your gut, what's the worst thing that can happen? You were wrong, and you'll never know that they would have done fine. But yeah, and then best case scenario, you're stressed about it the entire time, just waiting for them to fail. Mm-hmm. And that's never good for anybody.
All right, should we move this thing along here? We've got pre-production, production, post, distribution, promotional analysis as one, and then strategy at the end, just to kind of give a little roadmap here.
Pre-production.
Let's jump in.
Number one rule to fail in pre-production is to have the mindset, we'll fix it in post.
Yep. I think I mentioned this on the last podcast, but I love the phrase, let's fix it in pre.
Yeah.
Fix it in pre-production. Make the best decisions you can throughout this pre-production process. If you have to push back a shoot, you're better off being rushed for editing than being you're better off being rushed for editing than you are being rushed for the right creative concept, I feel like. I'd rather push the shoot back and make sure that we have a good creative foundation so that there's less time for editing.
Yes.
Than the other way around.
Yes. I would say that's more often true. I think it depends a lot on the style, but
true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to overplan a production, whether that's a production day or just the rest of the production. It's hard to overplan because there's so much value in going through the process of planning. Not just creating the plan, but thinking about and having to make certain decisions. It's the Eisenhower quote, like the value of building a strategy is in making the strategy, not in executing it perfectly, because you're never able to execute it perfectly. The Mike Tyson version, I think, is, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the fucking face.
Do the voice.
I can't do the voice. I'm so far from being able to do the voice. There's so much value in going through and considering all of the options that when something goes wrong during the rest of the production, whether it's a high-stress day on set or something in the edit or whatever, you've already considered some alternatives. And even if you decided not to do them, they kind of have become backup options. I wanted to hire this editor, but I've got this gut feeling. So at least in the process of thinking about who should edit this, I considered 3 or 4 people. So let's go to the next person that kind of comes up on the list. I also want to mention that I think there are some things here in production that could fall under pre-production, right? Like not scheduling your day. Could go under. Scheduling your day is your shoot is what a big part of pre-production is. There's so much that you have to figure out before you're actually rolling the camera. Mm-hmm. A lot of people's mindset, and I know it's been ours for a long time, is when you think about the people involved in a shoot, like if you look at one day of your production, your most expensive day is your shoot day. Mm-hmm. Your most expensive days are your shoot days.
Because if you've got a 10-hour work day and you've got 20 people on set, that's a lot of hours. And there's a lot of hours that go in before that to make sure that that day is just executing and knowing backups.
Yeah, I mean, it's, rushing to production, fix it in post. Or rushing to production, we'll figure it out on set. Mm-hmm. Right?
I mean, as a producer, that gives me so much stress.
That is, and you're not a planner. Right? Like, the way that your mind works is you're a doer. You want to be, told what the plan is, and then you're going to go do whatever it is you're going to do.
I'm already taking 3 steps by the time you're starting.
Yes. And so to hear somebody who's wired like that, but who is a producer saying, it really makes me anxious when that plan
Someone
isn't
says,
together.
Leave it
Yeah, we'll figure it out on the day. No. We'll figure it out right now, and if we have to pivot, we'll pivot.
That's
Yeah.
What about the next one? This is a fun.
Yeah, so this one I didn't really know where to put this. So I put it in pre-production. It could be in post-production. This one was one that was really driven by the first time we ever had this problem with the project. So I wrote it as, writing yourself into a corner. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is being so specific that you don't give yourself flexibility. Mm-hmm. So we had written a good script. We had planned every single shot. Mm-hmm.
So that the voiceover and the visuals.
So the voiceover and the visual and the timing, and it was, everything. Almost every frame. You
had it pre-edited. You built you put the music, you put a scratch track.
Yep, and post-it notes everywhere. Mm-hmm. And we even executed the shoot almost flawlessly, as I remember it.
Except for the guy who stole my shirt.
Except for the guy who stole your clothes, and asked for payment up front before he would sign the release.
Oh, and then he was hitting on our lead actor.
He was hitting on our lead. Yeah,
she was uncomfortable.
That was bad.
She's a trooper.
We should do a whole episode on everything that went wrong on that shoot.
We're naming names.
Yes, we were really satisfied at the end of the shoot, and I went back to edit it.
We were so prepared. I remember going into production thinking this is going to be a breeze. It's already edited.
Yes,
it's already edited. Just take shot. Take 4, put it there. Take 1, put it there.
And we did it. I did it. And I watched it, and I thought, And I said, Justin, come over here. And you looked over my shoulder, and I played it again. And after about 2.5 minutes, we're like, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I remember that. Work.
Yeah. It was a very gut-wrenching feeling knowing that
we did it.
We did exactly what we set out to do, exactly what the client wanted. We were excited about it. They were excited about it. And it fell completely flat.
And when you watch it, it just didn't work.
So what did we do wrong?
I have no idea.
Didn't give ourselves enough flexibility, and we didn't get a lot of coverage in our shots.
We didn't get enough coverage, so we didn't have options to mix up the edit. Because
didn't we record voiceover?
Yeah, especially on something like this. This was, you have the opportunity, as much as you may not want to, you have the opportunity on a VO-driven piece to go back to the VO talent and say, hey, I've got some rewrites. Mm-hmm. Please re-record this. And some VO talent will include rewrites. Some, they'll charge you extra, whatever. If you got to pay extra, you got to pay extra, because if it doesn't work, don't put it out there.
Right.
But if you've already done the shoot and you didn't get the coverage, then you got to, the easiest, most expensive thing to do is to go out and reshoot. And come up with the new shots that you need for a narrative that works. Mm-hmm. I don't even remember what our solution was. I feel like what we did was we shortened it, and we took a couple chunks out, and the pace flowed better. And so we were able to actually take a less is more approach. I want to say it was 2 minutes and 37 seconds. I think we got it down to 2 minutes flat.
We had very stylized shots too, so it's not like they were just things you could move somewhere else.
They fed into each other, right. And they were, the framing, and it was
It's like Wes Anderson-ish.
It was like our 4th client project, and it was something that, I don't know, we just felt so confident with, but we were just too restrictive. We didn't get the coverage. We didn't give ourselves the options, and so we made it work, but there's nothing like that feeling of having executed a plan perfectly, and then you look at the result, and you just have to admit yourself, that doesn't work.
Yep. So some of our pre-production and production bleed into each other. So do you want to take a break now for our sponsor?
Yeah, I'd love to hear from our new sponsor.
All right.
Our new totally real sponsor.
This is Cribble. There's not a whole, so they just kind of sent me a bunch of material. I'm just, do you ever listen to like Smartless or Joe Rogan or anything?
I've heard the name.
Anyhow, this ad is a little more just like talking through the product. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they didn't write you into a corner on this?
They didn't write me into a corner. No, it's just more like, here's what we've got going on. And then I talked with them and saw some cool opportunities, and here we are. They did write one line at the end, but I don't think they spent much time on it.
There's a lot of copy there.
But this is Cribble. That's Cribble. And Ben, you're going to like this. It's a portmanteau.
I love portmanteaus.
Do you want to guess?
Of crib and Scrabble.
No, but it is crib.
And dribble.
Yes.
It's basketball for babies.
Not
Basketball
yet,
for your house?
But they've already pivoted in the past. So,
well, hold on. Let me write down basketball for babies on my not fake podcast sponsors list.
so yeah, crib and dribble. And I think you can see where this is going. But what it is it's a bedtime device that collects all of that valuable drool you dispense while sleeping. Now, originally designed to keep babies' cribs dry throughout the night.
Sure.
But then
they already have diapers. Why shouldn't they have a Cribble too?
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly.
Okay. I'm with you now.
Yeah, you've got a niece. I mean, she's probably just a.
I use it myself.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is once they realized the value of saliva, they saw a new opportunity, and so this is where it really becomes interesting.
They started out in big data. Is that right? This is a couple pivots away from big data.
It's kind of messy past, but went from data to consumer products, and now this is actually really targeted towards the prepper community, survival. Did you know saliva is made up of? Well, what would you guess? First one.
H2O.
Yep. Water. That's 99% of it.
Yeah.
The other 1%. This is like
tacos from Taco Tuesday. Ooh, it's Tuesday.
Digestive enzymes, which help pre-digest food. That
sure.
In a survival scenario, I don't know, really need that, but if you don't have a fire, you may need to pre-digest that meat or something, the fruits or whatever, instead of cooking it.
Go on.
Neutrophils. It's an infection-fighting white blood cell for dressing wounds. Electrolytes, which improve hydration and regulate blood pH and deliver important minerals for physical and mental performance. And then the real moneymaker here is epithelium. It's one of the 4 basic types of animal tissue that regulate the exchange of chemicals in the body, secretion of hormones, and your body's immune response. And so by harvesting
epithelial cells.
Epithelial.
Yeah.
Epithelium,
which I imagine is connected to epithelial cells.
Yeah. So you remember that from class?
Yes, I do.
Gotcha. And so the device, it separates this into water and then other little packets of important.
The other 1% of stuff.
And it's just stuff you would just be drooling on the forest floor anyhow. Mm-hmm. So for our listeners, they're offering a free 3-month subscription if you buy before bedtime tonight. Just go to www.cribble.com/TVR. You'll get your first 3 months free with a 12-month commitment.
I have so many questions.
Yeah, well, I mean...
I imagine I could find those answers on the website.
I'm sure it's all on the FAQ.
Got it.
Yep.
Good. Well, welcome, Cribble, to our lovely little podcast here.
That's a nice shirt, by the way. Is that Orvis or something?
We've talked about this.
It is?
No, you can't touch me like that when the cameras are on. It is Stitch Fix, my wardrobe, provided by me paying Stitch Fix to send me clothes. Mm-hmm. That would be a nice actual sponsorship to have. Mr. Oliver's wardrobe provided by Stitch Fix.
Ben chooses for you your new style and then puts it in Stitch Fix.
Ooh, yes. Stitch Ben. Ben chooses your wardrobe for you, and then you go and order it and pay for it. Okay. Where were we?
Kind of somewhere between the gray area of pre-production and production.
All right. Let's talk about scheduling our day. If we want to fail at video, should we schedule our day very well?
No, I think you take as long as you need to set up.
Sure.
Sometimes that takes you through lunch.
20 minutes?
Yeah, I think that's probably enough, but we'll figure it out on set.
That's okay. They're professionals. I'm sure they can set up their gear quickly.
Yeah.
Especially if we don't even know what they need to set up. They probably don't set up much.
Sure.
Just an even general lighting, fellas.
Yeah.
Audio person.
You pick the color temperature. I don't care.
Yeah. Color temperature. 72 degrees.
While I'm on set and, producing a piece, I'm working very closely with the director to make sure that we are on time throughout the day.
It's hard.
It's very hard. And there's always 2 or 3 moments throughout the day where you're furiously rescheduling everything that's left and striking lines from the script.
And I would dare to call us professionals at this. And we have moments on any given shoot where even on one day where you're like, wow, we're actually not as far behind as I expected to be at this point.
And everyone says, shut the fuck up.
Hey guys, we're actually ahead of schedule. That person is just executed
Fired.
immediately. Yep. And then 45 minutes later, somehow you're an hour and a half behind.
Yeah.
And time is a construct, and none of us know what is going on. But there's something about, and I have no data to support this, but I feel like on our shoots, we get ahead of schedule when we're rolling and talent is doing what they do. Mm-hmm. We get behind schedule the other 80% of the time.
The
setup, the teardowns, the in-between stuff, the having to make certain script changes or whatever it is on the fly, God forbid, but it always ends up happening.
Or waiting for data to transfer.
Yeah, yes. Whatever it may be, it's that 80% of a shoot day that isn't where you're actually rolling, that time dilates and just takes longer. Mm-hmm. And at least for us, it's when, and I think we've gotten really good at hiring really talented talent and preparing them.
And crew.
And crew. Yeah. And giving them the tools that they need to know what we're starting out with. And then inevitably, you go along with the plan and something comes up that just doesn't quite work. Also, so we talked about this.
A big part of the planning is, I think, every time that we're on set and we're rolling, I or other people are coming up thinking of like, oh, this would be cool. And you want to try new things. Yeah. If you don't have a schedule, you don't know if you can fit that in or not.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff that's where the magic happens, is those funny little things on set. And inevitably, a client the day before a shoot almost always will say, hey, could you,
day of,
or like add a scene or change out the CEO with somebody else.
Yeah.
What?
Could we get a Spanish version of this also?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
She's bilingual. You are lucky.
You are lucky. And then the thing about having a schedule, too, is that 20-person crew that's working their 10-hour day, they can work longer than 10 hours.
They will if they have to.
For overtime.
Yep, 1.5.
So that's time and a half for 20 people.
Yep.
Because you didn't schedule your day.
Plus another meal.
And here's the thing is, that's true. You get to, 12 hours and you got to feed them again?
There's
you got to
union
feed them
rules
every 5 hours or 6 hours?
I don't know. There's union rules that we try to stick with. It is like a general guideline, but yeah, I don't know
general
all of them.
Guideline. Everything takes about 4 times longer than you think it will. I don't know that it's that specific, but I remember the first time you and I ever worked together, and we got to a point. We shot 28 videos. We wrote, shot, and edited 28 videos in like 2 months or something, which I do not recommend anybody do. We figured out pretty quickly that setup took about 3 to 4 times longer than we thought it should.
We had people scheduled to come into the studio, and we're like,
and we were still setting up.
Got some work to do.
Yep, it's inevitable. And I think we've even gotten to a point where we schedule, instead of scheduling 2 hours before talent after a call time on most shoots, we've now gotten to where it's 3 hours, and we're still, and it's not so much Parkinson's law that work expands to fill the time it's given. It just always, right? It's like a video's never finished. It's just taken away.
Yeah.
Like at some point,
You have to roll.
someone on set has to say, guys, we're fucking 45 minutes behind. We have to roll. Stop tweaking. We got to go with this.
Yeah.
We'll fix it in post. Oh, no, wait. We'll just go with it as it is.
I'm going to bring up one that's in
Good.
this gray area of pre-production production, and that's if you've got something scripted, maybe you even have a voiceover, but you've got actors who are doing very specific things, like blocking and having them walk through their paces. Not rehearsing this stuff will eat up a lot of time on set, and inevitably it'll still suck. I remember I directed something for a client once where, in these rehearsals that we had scheduled, I more or less just wanted to build a connection with the actor.
Yeah.
And thinking that, okay, if we have a connection, I can work with her on set and get the performance I need.
There's a lot of lines to camera that she has to deliver right. Let's focus on the delivery, on understanding that she knows her lines.
Yep.
And we'll spend the time on set doing the rest.
And then also on her resume, there were certain capabilities. A lot of times they'll have like horseback riding, archery, yoga. Well,
do you know the definition of the word archery? Yes. Capability.
Exactly.
Yes, it means caring for trees properly. The capabilities section is, I think this is just a general rule, always double and triple check the capabilities your talent
Yeah,
states.
before casting.
Ask for proof of those capabilities. I'd like to see that someone else has recorded them doing that.
We had they should have some digitals of that. I mean, we had a whole scene dedicated to yoga. Yoga was in her capabilities. I assumed, she knows what she's doing. We talked to her about yoga. She knew what down dog was and some of the other basics. I'm like, great, this is gonna be good. Between the rehearsals, or the introductions, I'll even call it, and the shoot day,
walkthroughs.
Some of those positions may have changed, but I never checked with her. I never made sure that she was capable of doing a certain move. That we had set up this whole weird shot where she's doing down dog and we're shooting her head between her legs down on the floor level.
Because that would have been funny.
It's funny. She did not know yoga at all. She couldn't touch her knees, so she certainly couldn't do down dog.
Head, shoulders, nope, I'm done.
One thing we didn't put on here is if you're going to have a teleprompter, charge the iPad. Because that, on top of her not knowing a couple of the activities, she didn't memorize her lines.
That's okay. We brought the teleprompter.
All right,
we'll flip it up. We'll go to teleprompter.
Yeah, bring out the teleprompter. Tight 5 here. And it's not charged.
It's so uncharged. We can't even turn it on when it's plugged in.
Yeah. So that was a very stressful day. We had to do a reshoot. That cost a lot of money.
Rewrite,
reshoot. Yeah, everything fell apart at that point.
I think with different talent, we could have pulled off that concept. I don't think with that talent and just the right rehearsing, we could have pulled it off. I think what we would have realized is that this person can't do what we need them to do, so we would have recast. I think the concept would have worked, but what we ended up with was so bad. We didn't just recast and reshoot. We rewrote. We reconcepted and rewrote. We got rid of the idea of the brand mascot.
Did we even try to edit it?
We must have.
Probably a little bit to see what we can salvage here.
Yes. I remember getting my hands on some of the footage.
Which it's already in a bad place if Ben's editing.
If it's being handed off to me, it's been through a couple other people to try to make something work.
The next one.
Oh, yeah.
So the next bullet point here is wardrobes.
Yeah. So like 300 level thinking on wardrobe. But yes, go ahead.
There's much more to say about wardrobe, but back to that last story, we were about to start rolling, and our actor spilled a drink all over the front of her shirt, which caused, and she didn't have a backup. She didn't have a bib on, and
we had already shot.
We had continuity issues.
Issues because she was already wearing it. It was hanging in the background.
She had to put a scarf on for the rest of the day. It's just a mess. All right, what were you going to say about wardrobe?
I don't know.
Thinking about it,
I
just even having an idea of what it should be.
Yeah, I mean the
lookbooks.
The way to fail regarding wardrobes is to just assume that your talent will bring whatever you need.
Right.
They may own everything that you need, but if you don't have a clear idea of what talent needs to be wearing that day, they can't bring it.
Right.
I mean, it just sounds so obvious. But it's one of those things that I think it's on here because it so often gets forgotten.
Yep.
That it's there as a reminder. Think through, what are you making? Like, are you making a whole series of videos out of this thing? And do you want them to be in the same wardrobe for all of those videos? Or do you want it to make it seem like it was shot over a longer period?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want to, for each category or episode or whatever, have a different wardrobe. Well, what works with the brand? What works on camera? What works for that talent?
Mm-hmm.
What works with audio?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, great earrings. They're really good looking, but they dangle and they're causing issues with the audio.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. It's
wardrobe leads to the way that people might also do their hair.
Yeah.
And makeup.
Hair and makeup, another thing that is so often left to
day of.
And, you know, your hair and makeup person, you assumed that they were going to bring a steamer, and your talent comes in from out of town with all of these wardrobe options in a suitcase, and nobody's got a steamer to get out any wrinkles, and then you're putting your talent on camera in wrinkled, approved wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
So the remedy that we've found is bringing on hair and makeup early enough where we can show them who our actors are to prepare them in terms of like skin tones or whatever and hairstyles, but then also having a wardrobe person specifically handling that, working with the creative director to understand what is the aesthetic, what is their brand, our client's brand all about, who is this character, whatever. And that's been so helpful in relieving some of that anxiety and stress on the day of the shoot.
I want to go back to not rehearsing with the actors because there's a couple sub-bullets here that I don't know that we really got into. Creating clear expectations. For me, it's there's a balance. We so often talk about getting as much out of the shoot day as possible. So that often means shooting multiple scripts on one shoot day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one thing to have the talent read through those scripts with you in a rehearsal. But depending on whether it's going to be teleprompter or memorized, whether there's multiple speaking talents, whatever, there is an energy drain from every successive take, every successive video, and you will not be able to get as much out of your talent in the last hour of the day as you will the first hour. Mm-hmm. Well, as you will the second hour. Because I do think there's often a warm-up time, even with the best talent, too. So your first hour, allow time to kind of ramp up into it. But then your last hour, you're just not going to get the performance out of the most talented actor. And you have to... Sometimes you have to talk through the expectations of the volume of all of this. Also, teleprompter work is very different than memorized work, but it doesn't mean that it's any less stressful. In fact, for some talent, teleprompter is more stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you need to make little script tweaks, which always happens. Oftentimes, because this is another reason to do walkthroughs. So many times you're hearing the script for the first time on set. And so you could have had a writer and a creative director and a producer and a couple people at the client go through and work together on scripts and sign off on scripts that are written on paper. And nobody's actually uttered or listened to out loud.
Which is why we started doing table reads
we started doing table reads, because so often a tongue twister will pop out of a read-through where it just kind of hides on the page. And so jumping back to those walkthroughs, read-throughs, table reads, whatever, that's a great opportunity. It's your first opportunity. In fact, you could even have the talent, as they're preparing, just record the audio of a couple reads, at night after their day job or whatever it is, send it to you the next day, and you're probably going to find some areas that need to be addressed. And I think we've tried to set the rule that on any substantial speaking role that whenever possible, talent has the locked script a week before the shoot.
Yeah.
It's a better goal than a day before the shoot.
Yeah. It's good to have the goal.
Yes.
Not always attainable, but...
Yeah. What's left here?
One of them's location. So if you want to fail, do not scout your location. Do not prepare anything. We did a whole episode about
2 episodes
locations and how to choose the right one, how to prepare, how to go through it in pre-production to understand what that location is all about, who's going to be there, where the sun is, what sort of noises are happening, where the controls are, where the electrical is, all that stuff. So I would say go check the podcast out. But
yes, if you want to fail at video, do not go listen to episode 63, 64?
63?
The one about
this is 65.
Locations. Okay, so we are going to take a quick break here, and by quick, I mean 2 week, because we are going to break this episode into 2 episodes for your viewing pleasure. And so keep an eye out for part 2 of How to Fail at Video on the Video Information Podcast.